Welcome to episode 6 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Obviously, we all missed watching hockey yesterday. At least I did. I don't know about you guys. I'm not a big football guy, so I was forced to watch the 3 underdogs win, I guess, which was pretty exciting to watch the 3 underdogs find some success yesterday. But a lot of debate about Canadian teams maybe playing on Thanksgiving. That's something we can get into a little bit. Or we can talk about the Rangers being the first road team or first team in the NHL to have 10 road wins. Lots of different ways we can go. But I just want to say what's up to the both of you. Right back at it after Thanksgiving. Hardworking guys, as always. Hope you guys are doing well on this fine Black Friday. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm moving a little slow this morning. A ton of people in the house. Don't denigrate the football games. It's the best background noise you can have when you have a million people in the house. Got uncles falling asleep on the couch in front of the TV. That's the way you got to go. Hockey is a little too fast paced, I think, for the way the day of Thanksgiving unfolds. I don't know what you think, Rupp. That's always my feeling. Football
I find
is a perfect
funny
one.
that everybody becomes a football fan. You nailed it. It's wallpaper, but everybody becomes football fans. Like, you have family members that haven't spoken about football ever, and they walk in the room and they're stuffing their face and they're like, "Oh, what a terrible pass!" I'm like, "Really?" You know what I mean? Like, they just come in, but it's fun. It's I always love watching the end when I think it was the Packers. They've shown them with the big drumsticks. Like, that's just tradition, man. You see that stuff and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for the food." So it's good.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I'm actually the one who's forced to talk football on Thanksgiving, so I don't enjoy it because people like, my cousins are asking me what I think of the Packers this year, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue. Like, I don't watch. But all right, well, let's get into some hockey because we have no time to waste this morning. We're not going to get into voicemails, so we apologize in advance, but there are some decent amount of things to talk about. Excuse me, my brain is mush this morning. Obviously, everyone has that post-Thanksgiving hangover, but let's talk Rangers. Like I said off the hop here, first team in the NHL to 10 wins on the road. But can you even you can feel good that you just beat Carolina, a very good team on home ice. But I still think there's like hesitation to take that stat and be like, wow, this is a good sign.
It means
for
nothing.
what's to come.
That means nothing.
Right? It means
absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, so you're the worst team at home. So
Yeah.
I mean, let's even that out and we'll see where you're at there. So I don't know.
But
I don't know.
didn't.
It's interesting though, Johnny. Like, it is. They can you imagine? Can you imagine if they weren't the best road team in the NHL, where things would be at right now?
Yeah. I can't. But I did like what JT Miller had to say post game. Obviously, his first game back from missing a few due to injury. But I feel like you guys would agree with this. I just want to read it quick. So this was what JT Miller said after the win in Carolina. Today, I don't think we were at our best. We found a way to win, and I thought our third was our best period. It's funny. You go through the first 15 games of the year, how many games we thought we should have won. This is one that hopefully can help even some of those out. It's a really good team. They play right in your face on top of you. It's no surprise. They've done it for so long. I think they played a little quicker than us for a majority of the game, but I thought in the third we started to play behind them and held on to pucks and had our best period. When we did have some breakdowns, Shesty played unreal. Like, that's just Rangers versus Hurricanes hockey, I feel like explained perfectly by the Rangers captain, Igor Shesterkin, and it's coming up big.
And it's happened in every key moment in the last, 4 or 5 years. Like, to me, the Rangers are kryptonite to the Carolina because of the way that game unfolded. They got guys who can score. We've been talking about it ad nauseum. They don't have as many guys that can score this year, and those guys are not scoring enough. But Rangers got enough high danger chances. You saw too that Noah Laba first goal. That's your boy Johnny. Just took the space that was available to him, which is very rare. But I think if you're a Ranger fan and you watch them play Carolina, especially in the playoffs, Carolina's kind of fucking frauds. I think it's maybe that's a little strong, and I understand Jacob Slavin makes a huge difference when he's not out there. But the Carolina style of play, everybody loves it. It's it's so much activity, it's so much chaos. They're just looking for broken plays in the offensive zone. But when you got a goalie like Igor who's gobbling up these low danger chances, all you're doing is warming him up, and you're making him an even better goalie than he usually is, because there's not enough high danger going at him. And the Rangers just know how to counterattack. I mean, think about all the key games, game 7 and 22, game 6 in 24, where the Rangers just suddenly, people were like Carolina, 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 and the Rangers just took their space in the offensive zone. They took charge. They changed things up. Carolina just doesn't change enough up, and my Islanders, Carolina's their kryptonite because the Islanders can't handle all that chaos, and they fall short every time when they play Carolina. But for the Rangers, that's a good confidence builder. That is the way the Rangers have been successful: is Shesty, opportunistic offense, quality distribution of chances. They're making the most of their scoring opportunities. You got goals from big guys. It was a great face-off play goal by Panarin. Really nice look for Trocheck. That was a big one early in the third. That they won a couple in a row. Yeah, they gotta follow through. Against the Bruins today, and just show some consistency, home or road, whatever. But to me, and maybe it's because we all spend our time reading shit online, and everybody online thinks Carolina is the greatest team that ever existed, and I'm still waiting for them to win anything that matters anything. And if Carolina wants to win something this year, they better hope the Rangers miss the playoffs, because it ain't going to happen again this year either.
Well said. Seriously.
So I think the first thing when you talk about the JT Miller comments, he's so bang on, because how many times this year, even though the season's been like not great, I think we can all agree in a lot of regards. They have had moments where they deserved more and they didn't get it. Like that's the National Hockey League. That's what I mean. We'll talk about the Islanders later. I mean, that's the flip side of what we're talking about here, where you might sit there and be like, oh, did we earn it completely? Did we control the flow of the game? No, but you won. And I think that's the key component about playing in the National Hockey League. It can't just be when you feel great and you have the puck on your stick all the time, but that also what Arthur's saying, that's Carolina. Carolina is going to control every metric of the game, but they're not going to necessarily win the game, even though it's a good team. But you made a reference to I just got a little chuckle to myself when you said the Rangers are Carolina's kryptonite. That would insinuate that they've ever been Superman, and that's not the case. Like they're this busted superhero version that shows up to the crime scene but never really does anything with it. So they're just a team that they're going to be there. They're going to be in the fight. But when you need to win, like I look at the lineup, I love the lineup. I love the players. But in a game like last night, on what night was that? Wednesday night.
Yeah.
You see there's so many times, and it always goes back to this. And I don't want to say it just like in a very easy blanketing statement of saying they don't have stars, because they have really good players and they have some stars, probably not superstars, but when they have a game where they dominate, and they dominate, like I said, most nights statistically, who is going to make sure that they bury the pucks when they need to bury the pucks, or make the play when they need to make the play? Like, that's the problem when you say superstars. I don't think you need superstars. You just need guys to be able to come through in the clutch. I don't think Carolina has that. And I think you're sitting there, if you're a huge win for the Rangers. I love that win for the Rangers because it was ugly. We'll see how they kind of take that out of this break. But, man, I think Arthur nailed it, man. This is like Carolina. Oh, here we go again.
And I wanted to add to Arthur's point about Laba for the first goal. The Rangers, again, like, they're kind of under siege a little bit. I don't think the Rangers were playing as poorly as maybe the shots would show in the first 10, 15 minutes. But again, like, they get their chance. I forget, they might have came out of the first period with 4 shots on goal. But Noah Laba gets the opportunity because Matthew Robertson, what we talked about all last show, the Rangers' mobility on the blue line needs to get a whole lot better. And while Matthew Robertson isn't like the best skater, he's a fine skater and he makes a play. And that's a guy who the Rangers, again, like, he's been around the organization for like 6 years and hasn't gotten a shot. This year, he's been such a pleasant surprise. I didn't want that play to go unnoticed, because the fact that Robertson makes a little head fake at the blue line and gets down to the goal line opens up that space for Laba in that little soft area for him to put the puck in the back of the net. And the Rangers need those kinds of plays from guys like Matt Robertson. They can't just have offense coming from the blue line from only Adam Fox. It was Gavrikov against St. Louis who helps chip in, and now it's Robertson who helps chip in. And if the Rangers are going to score goals, they need more from the blue line. So I just wanted to point out that play from Robertson. And again, like, their best line, we talk about the goals from Panarin, from Trocheck, but all night, it was Berard, Laba, and Brodzinski who were on the money, like pound and hound type of hockey. Really impressed with Brett Berard in his first, the first game didn't show as much because he got limited ice time, didn't play that much more per se against Carolina, but way more noticeable, it felt like, with that line. And just wondering, what you guys made of Berard, if he's making a case for himself to stick around, or as soon as he has one bad game, does this just stop?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly gone over the treatment, I guess, of some of the Rangers' younger guys, and you'd like to see them be able to make up for a mistake or make up for a bad game. And I feel like, that we saw it in training camp. I think that was really the emergence of Noah Laba, was playing a lot of preseason games with Berard and with Connor Sheary. So that line and Johnny Brodzinski, we praised him a lot the other day. Like, he has a good game against St. Louis, playing with the skill guys. He has a good game. That's just a sign of a guy who understands his role, understands he's not always going to be in the same spot at night after night, and you just got to bring it whatever you got. And I think Berard has a lot of that same DNA, and we've seen it unfold already this season. We knew that Rangers' third line was not going to be a kid line level prolific scoring, a lot of offensive potential. It was, their bottom six is really about grinding it out, and not really being relied on for offense. But I think if you can get a little bit of both, if you can keep a Berard in there, makes that great play, cut into the net, almost beats Anderson with a backhand. Like, this kid really sniffs out scoring chances in whatever limited minutes he gets, and he's got the motor to keep going. I know he's undersized. I know he's not going to dig every puck out of the corner. If he's out there against the Jacob Slavin, it's probably not going to be a winning shift, but who cares? Let's see him be able to repeat some of these things, even if there's a few mistakes, a few miscues, a few missed assignments. I feel like where the Rangers are right now, trying to get on a roll, trying to get some juice into their game, let this kid go. Let Johnny Brodzinski get a nice run of games to go. It just seems sort of obvious to us on the outside. We don't know what the internal conversations are about, but when you want to put some life in your game, these are two guys that seem like they're able to do it. And obviously Laba, is in there in pen for the rest of the season. So keep that line together and see what you got.
I think we spoke about it before, just being hard to play against. I think when you're looking, I think this coaching staff should be looking at these lines and being like, all right, what do we have in place? You're always going to be moving lines around, and you're going to need to do that to spark something over the course of a game, or just if you're in the middle of a couple games in a row where you're not scoring very much. But it'd be nice to put some check marks on some lines and be like, oh, these guys are tough to play against. And I think that line would be one I'd be intrigued with, to see if there's more there, and just playing hard, man. And if you can find four lines, a mixture of just playing hard, you obviously got to get production, or none of that matters. But I think that's a huge plus. And then you can kind of be like, all right, let's get those guys, like you guys said, give them some run, see what we got here. I think that's the biggest challenge, I think, with this team, is just every night having a line that, no matter what the result is, just you got your hands full with the Ranger forwards. So again, early, but I like what I saw, and hopefully we see more of it.
Last thing for me on the Rangers for today is the Connor Sheary scratch anything deeper because of their relationship, or is it not really as big of a talking point as fans may make it out to be?
I mean, as far as the fans go, isn't it more about time? Like,
I saw the gifs of the players lifting the cup when fans saw that Sheary was scratched. Like, it was something that fans had wanted for 10 plus games.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets fixated on these little
Punching
things
bags.
and say, like, all right, this is the thing that's going to make us all, we're gonna win 10 in a row now that we got a guy who plays 12 minutes a night out of the lineup. Like, no, you win the game because Artemi Panarin is Artemi Panarin, and Igor Shesterkin is Igor Shesterkin, and a couple other factors in there. So, yeah, I mean, Sheary's a vet. He's been around. He's been scratched plenty over the course of his career. He's not like he came in as a top 5 pick or anything. And it should be on the table. The way that they've played, if you're looking at that bottom 6, everything should be on the table in terms of who plays and who doesn't. And just like Rupper was saying, let's get 3 guys together who can give you energy and win shifts. And forget scoring goals at this point. Just win the majority of your shifts and show some chemistry and show some jam and get out there, and then you get to play again another game or two. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what the lineup looks like today, whether he gets back in or not. And I'm curious to see. I know we're kind of getting close to that Matt Rempe return, and we're talking about juice and energy. That's going to be a big key for me. And I can't believe I'm saying this because we've all made plenty of jokes about Matt Rempe's career arc so far, but you can't deny what the energy he brings, and the energy he certainly brings to the Garden, where the Rangers, 4 goals in their first period so far this season.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. You're taking the life out of the building before the game even really gets going. So if he gets back in the mix, and this third line that they've got right now is going good, I think you might see a Taylor Radish scratch coming up. He started off on fire, but these are the veteran guys that you bring in and you say, okay, they're not going to block our kids, and they certainly shouldn't. And it might be a little bit of an interesting situation where everybody kind of throws it on Mike Sullivan like they do on a lot of veteran coaches, like, oh, he doesn't play the kids. It's like, well, this is kind of a big time to determine that once Rempe's back in the next couple of weeks.
It's a great point.
Yeah, the one thing I just want to tag on Sully there is, there's going to be some decisions to be had. And if the team's winning and can put some more wins together here, it's going to make it tough on them. I think back to, so one of the things with Sully, and I know he's been taking it on the chin in those regards of maybe not opening the door for some of the young guys. I obviously had Sully as an assistant coach with the Rangers. I've covered him for many years while he was in Pittsburgh. Doing their broadcasts, and the one thing that he's loyal almost to a fault to veteran guys, and we've talked about this on other pods where he wants to know what he's going to get. And there's one guy that it's an example. So the only reason I'm saying this is because, all right, like he's showing that he's willing to make adjustments. He's not going to just hammer that home every single day. So the fact that Connor Sherry was a scratch, I think, is a huge win where people should be like, all right, he's trying to, and that doesn't mean I think Sherry should be scratched every single game. Like sometimes it might be the right move to shake it up and put Connor Sherry in. I like him as a player. But the point being is I think Sully's kind of growing from it. Because there once was a time I remember Zach Aston Reese in Pittsburgh.
Czar.
I would sit there and I used to sit there and think to myself, man, how nice would it be as a role playing depth guy to come to the rink every day and have no concern if your number is on the top 12 or no concern if your jersey's hanging in your stall. Like, and I think it got to the point where Zach Aston Reese, like Mike Sullivan trusted him, used him on the PK, and just all the time. I mean, he wasn't, be frank, like he wasn't doing much. Like he wasn't adding a physical element. He wasn't scoring. But he was always in that lineup. And I'm like, man, what if you just shake it up a little bit? Like what can that also show the rest of the team too? Because there was guys coming out of the lineup that didn't deserve to come out. So my point being here is like Sully's, I think, evolved in that way, and he's doing these things now, and it's about results. And if you're getting results right now, it could be someone he trusts immensely. He's going to pull him out, and I think that's an area that he's gotten better. I don't know if he'll ever get to where everybody wants him to be, but this is certainly progress, I think, as far as Mike Sullivan, not being overly loyal to some of his guys.
Well, it's funny because I was going to ask you if you had a teammate or had been in an experience like that where a coach maybe scratches their veteran guy. Because remember, like Mike Sullivan brought Sherry here on a PTO, which almost symbolized like we don't think Berard, Offman, or Perreault are ready to fill this spot for sure, right? Like that sends a message throughout the entire organization that, a new coach coming in, he's going to give the kids a chance, but there's no trust off the bat. Right, like that's kind of the message. Hang
on a second. So that's why we got to like be careful here too, because I think that people are from the whole Parsonen situation, and the Rangers take heat on that, and deservingly so. But like, let's read the tea leaves here. Like, if you're a team that's going to sign Parsonen to a 2-year extension, and you're going to bring in Connor Sherry, a PTO, what more do you need to be said about if they feel like the kids are ready? Now, hopefully some of these kids will start showing something else. But like, instead of sitting here and being like, I can't believe this is such mismanagement. Like, maybe they're not grabbing a hold of things, or they're not feeling very secure. And I don't think that's Mike Sullivan, because he's coming in new, right? So it's coming from other people in the organization. I believe they're like, hey, I don't know if the kids are ready yet, and they want to hit the ground running to start the season. So I think that I think we very easily jump on them, but at the same time, you mentioned it last episode, Johnny, like, you got to grab a hold of things like that. That's also playing in the National Hockey League. You get an opportunity, you got to grab a hold of it, because it can pass you by real quick.
And you guys know better than me. I want to ask this question to both you guys. Like I had mentioned, I posted that clip from last show. Are the Rangers a worse team with Perreault, Morrow, and Berard in the lineup? Or are they the same, or maybe if not better? We don't know. And I had a reply that I wanted to ask you guys, like, is a coach going to tell a GM to call a guy up, or is the GM telling a coach, hey, we're bringing this kid up, he's doing well in the AHL, we need some juice? Like, or does it go back and forth? I feel like it's typically from again, I'm not like on the inside of those conversations, but from my experience, wouldn't it be the GM telling the coach, hey, we're bringing this guy up, like, here's where he should go in the lineup? It's the GM that's kind of leading that discussion, right? Versus a coach telling a GM, I want this guy.
Usually, because the coach is coaching the NHL team. He's not in constant contact or watching clips of the AHL team. So the front office, imagine, in most situations, I think there's, depending on the level of, experience of a coach, Mike Sullivan's been around. He's been an AHL coach before. I think maybe he gets a little bit more input, and it's based a lot on what he's, the kind of the baseline you establish in training camp as a prospect. Even the guys that are going down, you kind of, you have some notes. You've kind of made some mental notes on what you've seen from guys, and if that changes, then you can kind of say, all right, I can see him fitting here, and maybe it's more of a dialogue. I think there are some GMs to just say, we're calling this guy up and you're playing him, to coaches. I think it really depends on the team. I think Chris Drury and Mike Sullivan have had a relationship for a long, long time. So maybe there's a little bit more back and forth there. But I think in this situation, whether it's a Perreault or a Berard, I feel like we can't put Othman in that category anymore, because he
scored the other day.
He's clearly, hey, well, that's a good way to get off the schneid, but he's a notch below those other two guys in terms of call-ups. And Morrow, to me, you like this guy, you like the skill set, Johnny. I just don't know that he's shown enough at the NHL level. Even at the AHL level, I didn't follow him that closely, as a pro in Carolina, but they have so many injuries, and he really wasn't a part of what they were doing either. So maybe he's not where we think he should be. He's got the skill set for sure, but maybe the other stuff is just not where it should be. The stuff that us on the outside aren't seeing every day. But I think when it comes to Perreault or Berard, they clearly have an idea of what they can do. There's plenty of NHL film on those two guys. They've got plenty of run in training camp. So, I think there's a coordinated effort. I don't think it's the GM coming in. I'm sure if Rupper were, when he was playing for Lou, I would imagine that some of those conversations were very one way in the Devils organization, let's say, where Lou said, this guy's ready, you're going to play him. And even if it was fucking Pat Burns or somebody that's in the Hall of Fame, I'm sure he's like, all right, we're going to do it. But, I think modern
he also
times.
says, fucking shave your beard. You got some stubble today after it.
Right, exactly. I think there's a little give and take, but it definitely comes from the top down. And in this case, to me, is he ready? Do we have a need? For Berard, the answer is yes. For Perreault, the answer is no. And we can certainly all agree to disagree on that. And we'll see where this little win streak takes them. But, we've talked a lot, and and Johnny, what you've said, you're not a fan of Will Cooley in the top six. If this is the third line that's working for the next little bit, he's got to be in your top six. So he better show up a little bit more too. And that's again, blends in what we've been saying. It's incumbent upon the player. You've got him and Laugh on the same line a lot lately. You need to see a little bit more from them. We haven't seen them really in the highlights that much the last couple of games, even with the wins. So, there's always an ebb and flow. And I feel like in their situation, Berard is the right guy for right now. Maybe Perreault will be the right guy down the road. Maybe Scott Morrow will be the right guy to get in a couple of games and maybe show a little bit more than he's shown. But yeah, my experience dealing with GMs and coaches, it definitely varies. And I feel like this situation is probably a good one. I don't know how much connectivity there was between Chris Drury and Gerard Gallant, or Chris Drury and Peter Laviolette. Certainly those guys had such a short leash as coaches that there probably wasn't a ton of connection between the two of them. So maybe this is a better situation for the Rangers as a whole.
Rupp or nothing? Anything?
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on. Yeah, no, you're gonna have some interaction there. No, I was just thinking of like some scenarios where, can you imagine like a GM just telling the coach flat out like, this is who we're bringing up, fit him in, and there. I would assume there has to be.
I'm sure there's moments like that for
It's
sure.
got to be something like, hey, we're we got Laba out of the lineup. We need someone to come in here. We got to have someone that can bounce to play center ice, but we need a little bit of grit. Here's the role we're playing him in, and then maybe the GM checks with the staff and scouts and the coaching staff down in the American League and says, this is our needs. These are the attributes we need, and they're like, all right, this blah 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 has been playing well, and Johnny's been shit in the bed, so Johnny's not coming. This kid is no whatever it is. So yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of there's probably a lot of interaction with it. So
well, I actually felt that way last year about Parsonen with Laviolette. I don't think Peter Laviolette wanted to use Parsonen at all, but I feel like his hand.
That's wild. That's wild.
That's a feather in Lavi's cap, I think, on that one. But I think the opposite is true too. We got to say, because the coach, he's got eyes and ears. Like if Mike Sullivan's watching his team get shut out night after night in the first 10 games of the season, and he's going to Chris Drury and say like, hey, is Perreault ready? Because we could use a little jolt in this shitty offense we've got. Mm-hmm. And Drew is saying to him, hold off. I bet the friction that way, what the coach wants versus what the GM and his front office staff and his AHL staff are seeing, to me, probably causes a lot more problems than the other direction, where the GM is saying like, you're going to play this guy. I think coaches, to me, in my experience, coaches like having options, and they like having a little new blood when things aren't going well. But if you're desperate for something to change and the GM says, yeah, we got to wait this out for X, Y, and Z reasons. I don't know if coaches are on Puckpedia as much as we are and know all that salary cap shit, but probably not, because they're pretty focused. So yeah, I imagine the fights don't start over. Play this guy. The fights start over. Please bring me one more guy, because we're not playing well.
Yeah, the last thing I want to add is I played on teams too where I think the head coach of the NHL team and the head coach of the American League team are in quite a bit of contact too. You know what I mean? I think that's a way to kind of get that message across. Like maybe it's something. I'm just making up a scenario where maybe there's an attitude issue or a response of something that maybe he's going to get that feedback in that one-on-one call that maybe he's not going to get from the AGM that's there at the game or whatever. So I think those conversations are had quite a bit. I would say almost after every American League game, kind of getting an idea of what's going on. So they have a pretty good pulse of that.
Mm-hmm. Both of you, well said. Let's move into the Devils. Obviously, Simon Nemec, another overtime winner, but a game that could have went south for Jersey, right? They come out hot out of the gates. Markstrom lets in a pretty weak goal around like 2 minutes in or so, and that could have deflated the entire bench, but the Devils kept going. I didn't see the full game. I missed a little bit of the second period, but the first period, I thought the Devils came out flying, and the third period, I thought they had a really strong finish, but the one player that stood out the most to me was their captain, and Nico Hischier. You talk about Nemec, and I see Devils fans saying, how could you trade him now? Or we should trade him now. This is the highest his value is ever going to be. It's both sides. But what did you guys think? Obviously, that top line really carried them, I thought, the other night against St. Louis.
Yeah, no, Nico's been incredible. And there was Markstrom kind of touched on that post game, just basically you want to give him an extra shout out, just how dominant he's been and just taking on anything. And heard Sheldon Keefe say the same thing. The guy's doing everything he possibly can right now. And there's a lot of extra responsibilities on that team right now and on the table. I think the one thing for me that was huge in the game, that massive double minor kill on the high stick by Palat.
Yeah.
I mean, those are moments where,
1-1 there, right?
Yeah,
you're
2-2.
2-2.
Yeah, it's tied. You're in a game here where You really should probably have your way a little bit more than you did against the St. Louis Blues, the way they've been going. But you get this pivotal point where it's just like, that was massive. That was a huge kill. And then you go on and you're able to, again, find a way to win. So, yeah, Nico was incredible. He's been really good and picking up the slack with Jack out. And I think that was a real pivotal point for me, was that penalty kill.
Arthur, were you able to catch much?
I feel like they controlled the play. They controlled a lot of the ice for the majority of that game the way you want to see. And I think this is just how they're going to win games without Jack. They've got, as far as the offense goes, they did, there were a lot of lines getting chances, but the ones that finished the chances was obviously the top line and the way that they're playing. They're going to be that kind of team. Like Rupper was saying, they're kind of a one and done offensive team. That's it. We wish that it wasn't that way. I'm sure Sheldon Keefe wishes it wasn't that way, but this is just where they are right now. They're in tough, even sitting at 15-7-1. If they win 10 games in a row, all in overtime or a shootout, who cares? So I'm not, I don't want to like dismiss the details of how they're playing, because it could flip the other way real easily. But they needed one of their big guys to step up in Jack's absence. Hischier has been that guy right now. Hopefully there's some other guys start pulling on the rope too. They're getting, Nemec seems to like the big moments. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to be pretty. It just isn't.
No.
They're going to, and good on Markstrom for kind of making up for the shitty goal. It was a bad one, clear shite, big slapper. We don't use too much anymore, but played well throughout the game. And they got the 2 points. It's kind of a yada, yada, yada. We don't know. We don't really need to know the details. They're just get to the end, put the W up on the board, and go home and try to do it again for another however long, 6-8 weeks.
It kind of makes me concerned though, because I think we'd be thinking this if Jack was in the lineup and if this team was healthy. We're still trying to learn about them, because we saw what they were a couple of years ago. Then we saw what they were last year, dinged up, obviously. And then we saw the way they started this season. It's like kind of like how good are they? Are they good? I think that we would be thinking about that regardless. So I think you're sitting here, and I'm not trying to nitpick, because at the end of the day, Arthur's bang on. Like, a win's a win. You're taking it every day of the week. But they've also won a lot of games in extra time. And that's just, I think that is such a slippery slope in the National Hockey League, because it happens so often. Record-setting pace this year with the overtime games happening, where who are
6 wins in overtime and shootouts.
Yeah,
6.
like that's fantastic. But
I didn't realize that.
That's not playoff hockey. And that's the same thing I said about the Montreal Canadiens this season. That's why I was like, these guys aren't for real. They're not winning games outright. Now, the Devils, I'm not putting them in that category. I think they're a very good team. But how good, I don't know. Because these types of things are finding ways, being banged up and missing their best player, but still is a little bit concerning. So I'm looking more who's stepping up. Another guy I just want to give a little honorable mention to, Timo Meier. I think has been playing really well. He's been skating. He's been skating all over the place, getting on the forecheck, using his frame. And I don't know. We've seen flashes of that. He had the hot start this year, and then he kind of chilled for a little bit, and then he started to get going a little bit more. But we're starting to see the physicality and the legs going every night right now. And it hasn't necessarily every night turned into offense. And we know how capable he is of being a real driver for this team. But I think it's been a real nice sign with Jack out. I think he's been bringing something. And that's kind of, I think, what a lot of Devils fans have been waiting for some time.
Well, I'll tell you what, a guy who's got to get going is Jesper Bratt. He's playing well, but as far as putting pucks in the net, I was looking at numbers a little bit last night. Jesper Bratt hasn't scored in his last 9 games, and he has 1 goal in his last 16. And he had some scoring chances. Like, I think he had a breakaway, I want to say, in the first period against St. Louis where he hit like the outside of the post. But I believe we challenged him on the last show to like really show here that you're the guy. Arthur and I had that clip that kind of backfired a little bit on social media because
aging well.
Yeah, Jack went on a tear as soon as we posted it. But again, like if we talk about Jesper Bratt being one of the most underrated, one of the best players in the NHL, like now is your chance to really show it. Like
Yeah.
Rupper, you saw it firsthand when Sid was out with injuries, Malkin took over. Did he not? Like Malkin was just as
I know
dominant with or without
it's
Sid.
hard though. It's hard though because first off,
I guess
it's
Sid
hard
and Malkin
because-
versus Hughes and Bratt.
Yes, I don't want to stop. Yes,
Yeah.
because you know what, Johnny, I know you didn't mean it that way, but people are going to be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you just comparing them to." No, we're
I
not doing
definitely
that.
did not
But
mean it that
the
way.
point being is when you have two fantastic players, when one's out, let's see if the other can elevate, and that's what we're waiting for on Jesper Bratt. I just think it's a little bit different because he doesn't play center. He relies heavily on who he's playing with, and that doesn't mean he's just a product of Jack. Like, does that help playing with Jack? Absolutely, it helps. It would help anybody. I think he is a heck of a player, but it's just a little different. And if he was a centerman, and I mean this would be a moot point, but the point being with Evgeny Malkin or Sidney Crosby is you got the puck on your stick, you're involved. It's like a lot of things you can. It's just different having a different centerman, and I think that certain people, it's a struggle. It's not the same. So yeah, I'm waiting for him to kind of find that. I think he's a heck of a player. I was really hoping, and I still am, that this year he is a little bit of his coming out party in the playoffs. But he's a special player, and they need him right now. They need him to find another level. So kind of got some eyes on him, seeing if he's able. He's got some time still. He's still got a number of weeks here with Jack out. So let's see if he can pick it up a little bit.
I had one question I kind of wanted to ask you guys. And Arthur, did you have a comment on Jesper Bratt? I don't want to totally skip over that.
No,
and I know this
to live up to our billing. So
yeah, me too. I don't know if this is like low hanging fruit or not, but I feel like we should talk about it because it's everywhere at this point. But the news out of Vancouver, right? That all these guys are available, and you know, again, like Devils fans are going to talk about Quinn. I'm not even talking about Quinn Hughes though. I want to make this conversation about the Devils players in the room, who they hear these things too, right? Like, players have to acknowledge that like the conversation is about Quinn Hughes coming to Jersey at some point, right? That's the conversation across the entire league. If you're on the Devils and you're one of those guys who might be considered in one of those big trades, like, how do you also ignore that, right? Like, do you think all these talks out of Vancouver and how everyone is linking to the Devils, like, does that get into a player's mind? Like, maybe I'm stretching here, but I would have to think if I'm like Nemec or Meyer or Palat or these guys who are, or even like Mercer, you know, the guys who are talked about in a potential trade for Quinn Hughes, like, how do you almost block that out with the noise coming out of Vancouver? Is it just nothing, or am I, making a stretch?
I don't know. I've always thought that like you got so much shit on your plate, like you're not thinking about that. Like you're just,
Mhm.
and I guess if you have that moment where you sit down and you're like, like, all right, like my name's out there, maybe you put a little bit of more pressure on yourself or whatever the situation is. But also there's, I find that if your name's out there, if you're a part of a return for Quinn Hughes, that's a pretty good place to be as far as what someone thinks
Yeah.
about you. Even if it's like a bunch of players, like it's pretty substantial. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much. It feels like maybe more so on the back end. Like, doesn't it feel? It just feels like something's going to give this year with Nemec and Dougie. Like I don't see when they're healthy. I don't see how you don't probably move or really try to move one of them.
Yeah.
I think that's something. Maybe those two guys you're thinking about it, but at the same time, Nemec is doing what he can right now just to be like, hey, either way, like I'm either
Yeah, I'm
driving up my
chilling.
value here as far as, yeah, or it's a good spot to be in. It's just like you gotta have guys playing well to be able to trade them and be tradable and have other teams interested in you. So I think all those things are working good.
I would say too, in my experience, just as you write something, you hear something, and a player asks you about it. It's a place you are in your career too. You know, if you're a veteran, got kids, kids are in school, even if you're that much of a veteran, you don't want to go anywhere. That can get in your head too, because it's not just
Mhm.
about you. I imagine if you're a Simone Nemec or a Dawson Mercer, you just want to play hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, just my experience of writing stuff or being in a locker room and guys asking me like, oh, my name's out there. I think you find the older guys are a little bit more worried about it because they're uprooting a lot more, and the younger guys are just kind of like, yeah, fuck, if I go to Vancouver, if I'm here in New York or Jersey or whatever, like, it's not all the same. You obviously want to win, and if you're going from a good team to a bad team, and in that Vancouver situation, which I find it funny, all the people that put out these tidbits of information I've known for a long time, but you kind of have to read between the lines of the, like, you know, everybody's available except Quinn Hughes. You're kind of like, okay, what does everybody mean? And then you're like, it's not Connor Garland who might get something back. It's Kiefer Sherwood, who is having a ridiculous. What is he shooting? 27% this year,
something like that.
He's a guy who, yeah, he'll, if Vancouver was not going to make the playoffs, sure, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's kind of a journeyman guy. Tyler Myers, maybe, but like all our veterans are available, and then you actually look at the list as like, what is that? 2 guys? Like we're all, it's such a weird year. Everybody seems more attuned to the rumor mill than in years past because nothing is happening, and all that there's 28 teams are still pretty viable in it. And some of the teams that are out of it, Calgary, Donnie Maloney coming out and saying, we want more Kadris. We don't want to trade him. So, okay, they're off the list. Vancouver saying we're trading these from this list of shit that we've got essentially, that like nobody's really good that's available. Buffalo, who the hell knows what they're going to do? St. Louis, we don't know what they're going to do. So it makes me chuckle. And the people that I talk to who you're kind of like reading the tea leaves, they're just kind of like, it's funny where you see it and you're like, oh, okay, that's big. And then, somebody who's on the inside breaks it down for you. It's like, well, it's not quite as big as it seemed.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like too, it's just a little bit of gamesmanship too, driving up the price. Like, hey, It's I feel like when you're a little kid and you have like fucking hockey cards and you're like, I'll give you any of them except this one. You just want to, you want them to give you more shit. And
I will say, when it comes to Jim Rutherford, and you probably know this too, Rupper, like when he says something like that, or if something leaks out from them, like something's going to happen. And to me, it still feels like they're putting off the Quinn Hughes conversation for as long as they can. But if they're trading any of their veterans, like if they say, somebody make me an offer for Brock Besser, doesn't Quinn Hughes say, get me, he pulls the Denny Lemieux from Slapshot. Absolutely. 100%. He's out of there.
That is 100%. That's what I was going to go to here, where it's like, that to me opens the door wide open for Quinn to be like, all right, well, this is clearly, but that's the plan here, I feel like. And I feel like it's almost a lot of teams. I'm not putting this on Jimmy. I love Jimmy Rutherford. But this is the game. This is Patrick Alvin and him. They got to manage public opinion here too. And so I go back to Chicago with Kane and Taves. Like, they tried to move every single person out there that was beneficial for Patrick Kane to play with in order to be like, they want him to say, I want out. They want Jonathan Taves to say, I want out. Or we need to turn the page here, because they don't want to be the guys. I mean, those guys in particular, jerseys are going to be in the rafters. But Quinn Hughes, you're talking about the most pivotal player decision here in franchise probably history, and they do not want to, even though they can see it coming out. And we talked about it before. I don't think he's going to resign there. He's not going to. I don't believe he's going to be back in Vancouver, especially long term. They need him to say that. They need him to do it, because if they just say, okay, Quinn, and they go and trade him, then it's going to always go down in history as they traded Quinn Hughes and look what he's turned into. Look what he did here. The team was this afterwards. So I think this is a little level of, all right, here's the situation. They want Quinn Hughes to come to him and be like, all right, now is the time. So that's why I think whether it's this year, it's next year, I think it's happening. I think this is part of the game. Let's get it out there. Everyone's available, but we're not rebuilding. Everyone's available except Quinn. We're not rebuilding though. And they want Quinn to come to them and say, all right, now is the time.
I need a favor from Islanders fans, just to also wrap this conversation up a little bit, move into the Islanders. I was talking with one of my cousins yesterday. Can you guys I'm going to put you both in the hot seat here. Can you tell me how many playoff rounds the Devils have won since 2013?
2013? I believe it's one. Is that the correct number? It was the Rangers, right?
They've won one fucking playoff round in 12 years. For the amount of shit that Devils fans talk, like, all I hear online, and again, I was saying this, I'm saying I need a favor from Islanders fans because Rangers fans actually can't talk shit because the Devils fans will just say, yeah, the one playoff round we won was against you guys when you traded for Patrick Kane and Vladimir
So
Tarasenko.
that's
So
like the exchange rate. That's like 5. So they've
yeah,
won 5
exactly.
rounds.
But you when you take a pause, like Vic just said, holy fuck, even the Leafs have 2. Like the Devils don't really get the shit that the Leafs get, but they've won one playoff round in 12 years. And you'd think it's been way more than that by the amount of relevancy the Devils have. Like there has not been a whole lot of success there. And I think that needs to be pointed out just a little bit more. And I know now the listeners that are Devils fans to the show are probably going to hate me a little bit more, but like that is so under the radar of a number. Is it not?
I mean, they missed a ton too.
Yeah, they missed a
and
ton, but
they had the one good year in the 2010s after the run to the finals, the Taylor Hall MVP year, and
lost in the first round.
they were banged up when they got to the playoffs, and they were playing a juggernaut in Tampa. So yeah, and frankly, they should have lost that series to the Rangers. Rangers had them by the throat.
Mhm.
The Dougie Hamilton overtime goal was the thing that turned that whole series around. But my experience with Devils fans is they hate themselves way more than they hate you or anybody else. So,
I don't agree with that at all. I think they hate us so much.
you know some very brash Devils fans. I
Yeah.
find that they're a lot like Islander fans, where they will say "fuck you," but behind the scenes they just go "fuck me." Why am I rooting for this team? Been so much misery over the years. But let's segue into the Islanders. Speaking of negativity, I'll jump in.
Mhm.
We were praising them over the weekend for getting some structure, starting to turn down the chance machine that they were giving up game after game, and now look at them. Now they can't score.
Yeah.
What is it? 0 for 27 on the power play these last, I think, 6 or 7 games. And Johnny, I'm going to praise you for your excellent rant about expected goals, especially on the power play. They're not.
What was their number the other day?
What's that?
What was their number
for expected goals? I was looking at shooting percentage the
Okay.
other day. That they're obviously worst in the league in terms of expected shooting percentage, which is essentially expected goals and their actual shooting percentage. But also their expected shooting percentage is only about 17th or 18th in the league, considering the number of chances that they've gotten. And high danger, they're just god awful. They have 3 high danger power play goals, and you'd think every good chance, every power play goal is a high danger one. So now I think you're reaching that stage of concern with their roster that, like, we've seen the great stuff from Matthew Schaefer. He's sort of leveling off. We've seen the hot start for Bo Horvat. He's leveling off. Barzal had a really nice goal against the Bruins the other night, and obviously Jeremy Swayman made 42 saves, but you look at their numbers, a lot of low danger from them throughout that game. They put a lot of pucks on net, very Carolina-esque, and that is not their game. They need to be opportunistic. They need to be playing fast. When they're standing around the offensive zone and just funneling pucks from low to high and then throwing them at the net, the Islanders don't win that way. So I'm interested to see going into this weekend with Philly today and Wash on Sunday, both at home. They got to score some goals. Where you live and die in these margins, especially in the Metro right now, where we're talking about, we know Carolina is going to be there, even though I don't like their game to win 4 rounds and be a really good team. Jersey is going to be there because their record is pretty solid. They're finding ways to win games that take a huge collapse for them. I feel like the Rangers are on the come. Columbus, Philly kind of hanging around. Wash is getting a little bit better lately. You lose some of these games, especially in regulation, you can't score, and Patrick Roy starts changing things around, changing lines like he likes to do, and trying to look for offense. All of a sudden you're staring back to, you could be where the Rangers are within a week. So, or where the Rangers were, where they were down at the bottom of the standings. So I think I'm a little bit concerned with the Islanders, and maybe I watched them a little too closely, but I feel like 2 goals in 3 games, especially bad one against St. Louis, not producing enough against Boston. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like they could hit this danger zone of being a little bit same old Isles these last couple of years, where they just couldn't find ways to score. And obviously 32nd ranked power play, can't have that no matter what the expected goals are.
So Johnny, you said you wanted Heineman to get a look. on
Well,
on the
I
power
said
play.
if your power play is
Right?
not scoring and you have a guy
No,
who's not on the
it's
power play
fair.
that's been scoring,
Because
why not?
he's got the hot hand. Like, why would
Yeah.
you not go with him? But here's one that Islander fans, you guys ready for a shakeup though? Because I don't think like I think Tony D'Angelo is a better option on power play one right now. I
Really?
just that's not saying that they are.
I
It's not
don't
saying
know.
why. Tony has made a career of being. I'm long term, no, but do you have the right guy like Matthew Schaefer? And he's incredible, man. I'm not saying he's not incredible, but that power play going on this type of run, like when he is the most dangerous on that power play, it's when he's skating all around the offensive zone on the power play. Like they need someone to facilitate and set up too, to be a little bit of the point guard. And Tony's done that. We've seen Tony do that. So again, he hasn't lit the world on fire doing that for the Islanders, but just to shake it up a little bit, I just think that if that was a move that they made in a game, everyone would lose their fucking minds because Matthew Schaefer's not on power play one, but it might be the necessary thing just to at least get them going a little bit. And I don't know. It feels like, I mean, honestly, their best movement in that game was right before the shorthanded goal against. It's just a little bit. It's a little bit stagnant. Like it's a little too, I don't know, predictable. So I don't know, just something to shake it up. But I don't know if they'll do that because it might open up a whole can of worms.
I would challenge you in that sense that again, like of the guys on the top, right? You have Schaefer in the middle, you have Barzal on his one-time flank, and Druin on his one-time flank. Schaefer's kind of that first shooting option there, where it would
He's
also
the
still
only
be
shooting
Tony.
option.
Yeah, and it still would be Tony, but like the point with Heineman too, at least Heineman's a shooter. You know, if you get Heineman on his one-time flank, that adds another threat for Schaefer, where you know Schaefer can go from his like backhand, walk the middle forehand, and slip it back over to Heineman for the one-timer, or he can continue to walk, or he can exchange with Barzal, and then Barzal can kind of walk downhill. Like I think Heineman just almost gives you more options there than Druin does, but he's played well and he's a good passer and he moves around pretty well too. But I think they need some sort of shooting threat on one of the flanks. Like Barzal,
They
I've
100% do
actually
because
seen
there's
him
no
take some one-timers though. Like he's trying.
because no, they're trying to, but like at the end of the day, like you got to pick your poison on the PK. Like I'm not concerned when the puck's up top. I mean, when it gets to the middle of the ice and Schaefer's got it in the middle of the ice, you're going to be in the shooting lane. You're going to discourage. You're going to discourage them or taking a wrist shot from out there. And quite frankly, if he wants to take a wrist shot and moving laterally at the blue line, let him. I mean, you're going to try to block it, but like their threat and their only threat is trying to find Bo Horvat. Like so, they need one of those other options there to be shooters. And I'm not saying Tony putting him in that position is going to be that, but Tony does some.
Tony's a great
Tony
power
does
play
some.
quarterback. Not trying to
Tony does some
downplay
swirly
that.
things out there to set other guys up. He's got a hard shot, so maybe it can at least keep you a little bit more honest there. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to. You want to. I just think the way it's running right now, it's clearly not working. So there's a change that needs to be had, and that could be one that gives you a bit of a spark.
Yeah, and I feel like the righty lefty thing too. If you're gonna put a left-handed shooter in that opposite circle, you need a righty to have a little bit of deception and kind of set it up with the backhand. Schaefer staring that one down. They seem to accentuate, whether Druin is a shooter or not, they seem to accentuate the move to Barzal. And if he's dusting it off and kind of looking for the things that he's looking for, you're getting out of rhythm. You know, maybe the other solution is you start moving Barzal around a little bit more as kind of a rover. Maybe you put Palmieri in that spot, who's a guy who's a no conscience shooter.
Although one of our callers would probably hate that.
Yeah, probably.
I forgot who called in
gets
about
him
that.
away from the net front at least, so he's not shooting from the goal line. That guy was upset about it. But I feel like personnel wise, they're really choosing from 7 or 8 guys. Maybe you throw Duclair or Lee in the mix. So maybe you've got 9 guys essentially with Pajot out that you're really choosing from. And yeah, I think it's just more different looks. It's just like Rupper was saying, they're where they went wrong the last couple of years was force feeding Horvat in that bumper spot because he's deadly when he can hit a puck that's on edge and go bar down. You have that skill, you want to accentuate it. I totally get that, but it's too easy to shut off that play, and if no one else is stepping to the forefront on the outside, if the 4 guys collapse into the middle, you don't really have a lot there. It's it's a tough problem for them because they don't have that game breaker guy. Maybe we thought Schaefer was going to be that guy, and he's obviously still generating a lot. But when he starts to plateau or hit that wall that every 18-year-old hits in his rookie season, you do need to have options. I'm not gonna fully endorse Rupper putting Tony D back up there because I think
You have no other
couple
option
other
though.
changes.
So you have no other option on the back,
Right.
unless you're just
In
going to
terms of a
ride with
quarterback,
Matthew
yeah.
Schaefer.
Yeah. I think putting more expectations and more on Schaefer's plate when they're not scoring is 100% the wrong move. You gotta let this kid have his ups and downs and not say, if you don't do it for us, we're fucked. So in that respect, I do agree with Rupper that taking that off his plate, even for a game or two, again, it's like we were talking about with Luke Hughes and Nemec. You don't want it forever, but to change things up, I don't mind it.
Let me try to phrase this one here. Again, it's one of those moments where I have the thought in my head, but I haven't like planned out how I'm going to say it. The turnover Schaefer makes in the third period. Obviously, it's like it's not something. It's a terrible time to turn the puck over and have it backfire. Right, the Islanders are down 2-1. They have a chance to tie the game on the power play. I mean, Fraser Minton makes a hell of a play on that 2-on-1. Like I don't like when a D slides, but that was fucking sick.
No.
I don't know how you guys feel about a D sliding on a 2-on-1. I credit more Minton on that than
I hate
Schaefer's
D leaving
slide.
their feet always.
Yeah,
D leaving their feet drives me absolutely crazy. But I will say that was probably the best leaving of your feet, putting a player in a spot to have to make a miraculous play.
Yeah.
Like Schaefer actually handled that pretty good, considering I don't like the play in general. And what a fucking play. Like him to drag it around and then still look like he's shooting and just zip it over there to Steve's was like, that was one of my favorite goals of the year. But yes, anyways, go back to what you're saying. There's tough turnover, but
again, like I think it's almost like something that is that's a perfect like learning opportunity, right? Managing a game, power play 2-1. He kind of whiffs on a pass, right? But it's again like I think he should be like everyone on the team should be tapping him on the shin pads right after. Be like, you know what, kid?
100%.
It's like it's your first critical mistake. We're good. We trust you. You know what I mean? Like, I think if anything, that might turn into like a positive. A negative outcome might actually end up turning into a positive, if you know what I mean. That's kind of what I was getting at in my brain, and I don't know if it made sense out loud. But I wanted to say, like, I credit more Minton for making that play versus Schaefer for the turnover. Like, I think the play was incredible versus the turnover.
I thought too in there, like you see the two forwards coming at him, closing on him, and you know, whatever, he stumbles a little bit. But the expectation of Schaefer is, oh, he's like the other four guys on the ice are so far away from the blue line. Nobody's circling back to say, like, I better help him out here just in case. They're all like, oh yeah, he's gonna get through those two guys because that's what he's been doing the whole time.
So you say that, and that's so true. And I went back and I watched their power plays of that game. And the other thing is when he jumps down, everyone's below the top of the circles. So like the language, the body language is like, oh, this kid's legit. He's going to make the play, which they're not wrong. He's that good, but it's also you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire a little bit because if the kid is human and he makes a mistake, you're fucked. And that's what they were kind of on that play too. And I'm not saying those guys were in striking distance. I mean, it's just a flubbed play. Like I'm not putting blame on the other guys in that situation. But when you watch the power play, watch when he's moving. Is there a safety valve that's kind of filling in for him? No, there's not.
Never.
There's not. It's
he's like, also the first one back. If he makes the mistake, he can fly.
Yes. So like, again, to go back up what Arthur's saying, like, love the kid. Just, I'd like to see a little more taken off his plate. I hope there's not a burnout here at some point. He is carrying everything for this team right now. And maybe he can do it. Maybe this is just he'll do this and he'll thrive. But I don't know, man. That's a lot.
So no more Tony D.
No.
I want Tony D.
We're advocating for Tony D on the first power play for at least a little while.
I'm a Tony D guy. I like Tony. Anything else on the Islanders? I feel like, I mean, I wanted to mention the goals against too. Like the two goals that Boston scored, like obviously the timing of the first goal, like right after the Islanders opened the scoring on a sick Barzal goal, the building's buzzing. You never want to let up a goal like shortly after you score one. but those were just weird. Boston made something of nothing goals, right? Like the puck's kind of bobbling in the middle and guys like left open for a second, but I wouldn't like, that's not a, those two goals aren't goals against. You look at it and be like, there's critical breakdowns here. I think that's like a loss. Well, it sucks because the Islanders were probably the better team. It's like one of those games where it's like, we deserve to win. The pucks didn't go our way. And kind of what JT Miller said about the game in Carolina, like the Islanders will certainly have a game where they make up for that down the road, where they're not the better team, but they find a way to steal one, especially with how good Sorokin and Riddick have been.
The issue for me that creeps into that and whatever we call it, broken plays. I think my buddy Steve Valiquette, that's kind of his designation for stuff like that. They're two broken plays.
Yeah.
It's a category of offense that you say it and you're like, well, if you're a casual fan or someone, maybe even if you're a player, like, how am I supposed to stop that? But that's Carolina's offense, is those kinds of plays. They do it more deliberately than Boston did it the other night to get their goals. But when you have an offense that designed for, you go low to high or D to D, you're throwing pucks, you have bodies coming in at certain deliberate angles to get defensemen and forwards looking the wrong way. So a puck bounces this way and you're looking that way. This is why the Islanders can't beat Carolina, because their broken play defense is just not adept enough. And it's one of those things where I'd need to listen to 10 coaches and 10 data guys to explain to me how you defend, what are the teams that do well to defend broken plays and how do they do it? Maybe it's goaltending. Maybe your goalie has the split section reaction to see a drop puck at somebody's feet and say, okay, I'm tracking this guy, as opposed to catching my head looking the other way. But it is an Islanders Achilles heel. And I don't know if they just don't have a quick reaction enough team, if they're not structured in the D zone properly to defend against that stuff. But it is an ongoing thing with them. And when you see those plays, they're so deflating, because you think, all right, whatever the other team's trying to set up, we broke it up. And then it's like that, the Jeannot goal, where it's just like,
how does that happen?
It just goes right to him. He's got tons of time and space. You're like, what the fuck? Like, how are we supposed to stop that? And it comes early in the second when the Islanders are playing well and it's a tie game. And I guess just the other thing too is to be able to react to it, to say like, all right, it's not going to disrupt what we do, even though we're down, even though the UBS Arena organ player is playing that little "Let's Go Islanders" thing they play after visiting team scores a goal. So yeah, it was frustrating, but I think my Islander fan friends, my group chat is just like, we've seen this film 1,000 times before. Some team scores a funky goal and we just can't recover. So I'd like to see them, with the way that their offense had been up to last weekend, put some goals on the board. I understand, I get it. They were throwing everything at the net, but they've been really good about the quality of their chances this year. And that seems to be slipping a little bit too. The percentage of chances that are low danger versus high danger seems to be increasing. And that's a good way to lose games too.
Rupp, any thoughts?
No, nailed it.
All right, so no voicemails this week. Just one more little debate question we wanted to get to wrap up today's show, and this was actually a question from our producer Vic. Which coach right now, I guess let's see how we can word this one. Which coach right now would you say is like doing the best job? All three teams are in kind of different situations. You have the Devils, at the top between the three teams. You have Patrick Waugh in the middle doing a great job with the Islanders this year. And then you have Mike Sullivan and the Rangers, who are still finding their footing a little bit. I guess you could say Sheldon Keefe and the Devils are finding their footing too. But it's interesting, right? Like, if you're picking one coach and making a case for that guy, which guy are you going with right now?
Can I go first?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm taking Sheldon Keefe. I've always liked the style that he wants to coach. Toronto, under the microscope there. I thought he always had that team playing the way that they should play to be successful. Obviously, there's a million other factors that go into that team. Sorry, Vic, that our producer Vic is a big Leafs fan. So I feel like I have to apologize to him on a daily basis for having to be a fan of that team, because there's always so much misery attached to it. But I just like the way that he structures his game. And I feel like the Devils, yeah, they have star players. They're, they haven't defended exceptionally well, but they just seem to be finding ways to win games. He seems to push a lot of good buttons for me. He doesn't seem completely married to lines or D pairs, or we've been talking about some coaches that only want to see their veteran guys in the lineup. I feel like kids come up. Juha Lammikko hasn't really done a whole lot when he's been up, but he's getting an opportunity. Shane LaChance got in there. There, it's kind of out of necessity, but he seemed, and I feel like Simon Nemec had a rough start to the season defensively. He wasn't necessarily, he was producing a little bit, but he was struggling, to suppress chances and kind of control play. And what happens? Brett Pesce goes out, Dougie goes out. Instead of saying let's bring up a couple of quad A guys and see what they can do, and let's let Nemec ease into it, he gives the kid 26 a night for a couple of weeks. And that's really where Nemec kind of turned a corner here to start playing this level that he's playing at. And obviously the OT goals help and the shootout goal helps. But I like the mix for Sheldon. He gives a lot of responsibility to whoever has earned it and plays a really up-tempo game. Mike Sullivan has the pedigree, and Patrick Waugh has the certainly the tempo and the desire to play a certain way. Not really a lot of concern for the other end, but and the fieriness. Sheldon has that too. But you got a game 7 you want to win. To me, I'm going Sheldon Keefe.
Which is wild to think with the pedigree that Mike Sullivan had as the coach,
right?
You know what I mean? Or yeah, it's a great point. Or Patrick Waugh, but you know what,
Hall
guys,
of Fame player and a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah, and I'm taking the other guy.
I mean, but look at Waugh too. Though, I don't know if you could take out we talked about the axe in Dallas, last week, and how he defended his guys. Rupp, you made a big point of that on the last show, right?
Yeah.
I think that should things like that, even if it's not an X's and O thing, should be factored into this conversation.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, Pat. I think I'm still learning about Patrick Waugh as a head coach, because I love a lot of things he does, but I also think he's unpredictable, which could be good, but it also could be really, really bad. So
I wonder what the Rangers would look like if he was their head coach.
Yeah. So I'm not saying, I would say of the 3, just because of not knowing what you're getting, I think I'd probably put Waugh at 3 in this game that we're playing. But I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you, Arthur. I think Sheldon Keefe, because I know that I said earlier that Sully is starting to get better with making adjustments, changes to lineups, whether it's personnel, whatever it is. I just think what I've seen with Sheldon Keefe, he's not afraid to make a pretty big decision, and he's a merit-based coach. I really believe that with Sheldon Keefe. He doesn't give a shit who you are, what you make, what you've done in the past. What are you doing right now? And I think a lot of coaches, and again, I'm not talking about the other 2 we're speaking on here, but in the NHL, a lot of coaches say, my job is to win tonight. My job is to win tonight. But then they don't make the proper moves or play the guys that are playing better, or give guys more responsibility, or shake things up. I mean, Sheldon's doing that. I mean, Sheldon, look what they were even right before Jack's got out of the lineup. It was like they wanted the Hischier line going. So he shook up things when the team was on a bender of games. They were rolling, and he shook up the forward lines. Not many coaches do that stuff. And I think that keeps things fresh, keeps everybody accountable. And as a player, when you know that your job, if you just do your job and you do it well, you're going to get more, or you're going to get used in different situations. That's what everybody dreams for. So I'd probably say Sheldon Keefe.
I mean, I don't disagree with what you guys have said. I do want to make cases for the other 2 guys. I do think Patrick Waugh, well, I've talked to former Islander players and other guys around the league who have played for him. And, I don't know if everyone necessarily responds to the way Waugh coaches, but it seems like this group is, for the most part, right? There's no nights where the Islanders look lackluster, or they're coming out with zero energy, right? I think the effort you're kind of getting from the Islanders every night, whether they execute or not. And I think there is credit to be said to the coach for that, right? Where I think under Lane Lambert, there were nights where the Islanders looked, I thought, horrendous. and didn't really have a lot of energy. Granted, like that was probably considered the quote unquote older Islander group. Maybe, there is some youth now in the mix with this group in particular where the energy can kind of be boosted every night. So I do want to give Watt credit in that sense. And with Sullivan, I'll tell you what, and Rupper, I know you're going to agree. Arthur, I feel like you're not going to agree here. Mike Sullivan won me over early in the season, and this is both a good thing and a bad thing. When he had Edstrom, Carrick, and Rempe on the ice with 4 minutes left in the third period in a 1-1 hockey game, I was like, you know what? This guy is playing the fucking line that is going to get some energy going, and they might not score, but they've been playing so well, at least they probably won't keep the puck out of their net. And last year or last 2 years, Pierre Laviolette would rather chop an arm off before having 73 on the ice in the last 5 minutes of a game. So I credit the coach for playing the guys who are going. And again, like he hasn't really done that necessarily with Berard, over the past like 2 games when Berard looks like he was going. I think he's limited the minutes with Gabe and some of the younger guys. But the fact that he put trust in Rempe that early kind of made me have a lot of extra respect for him, where the not narrative, but the I guess the narrative on Rempe was like, this kid's not a good hockey player and he can't play hockey and has no business being out there. And if you're putting him out there in the last 5 minutes, like, I don't know, I think it says a lot. But Sullivan, I mean, Arthur, you've talked about it too. He's done such a great job with this blue line, and getting the Rangers to just play a structured, defensive, sound game of hockey where we look at the Rangers and it's not like, okay, they're only not in last because of Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. Yeah, those 2 guys have been a big part of their success, but the defense has played pretty damn good in front of them too most nights. So I think Mike Sullivan has plugged what was the Rangers' biggest issue coming into the season, and now there are other issues to fix. But I just wanted to give some love to both those guys, honestly, in different ways.
So who are you picking, though? Are you picking Sullivan?
You know what? I'm actually going to pick Patrick Waugh, actually. Just because I thought this Islanders team was going to be pretty piss poor. And yeah, Schaefer is a big part of it. Sorokin turning his game around is a big part of it. Riddick being a pretty steady backup is a big part of it. But the Islanders have jam. They got jam, and they're not boring. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coach and the way the guys have responded to him. And, I think Patrick Waugh coming into the season, if you were picking 5 coaches who probably could be fired within the first 2 months of the season, he'd probably be on that list. And I don't know if there's even an argument for it anymore. So, I'll say Patrick Waugh.
Wow, you thought Devils fans were mad at you, man. All your fellow Ranger fans are going to be fucking furious after that.
Well, I mean, you also look at those 2 teams, like the Islanders and Devils are both in a playoff spot right now. So it's easier to make the case for those 2 coaches, So, while I do think Sullivan's done a great job, like I had lower expectations for the Islanders than I did the Devils and Rangers. So I got to give their coach a little bit more credit.
Okay.
I think that's pretty fair to say, right? That's going to wrap it up for this week's show. We will be back on Tuesday, probably in the morning. The show will be released. We'll keep you guys posted on that on our Twitter pages and whatnot. But this show is presented by Novig, the future of sports betting. On Novig, you play against other real users, not the house, and it's only commission-free exchange, so you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sportsbooks, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. You can trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with our code DailyFaceoff in all caps to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase, available in most states. And remember, you must be 21 or older to play with no purchase necessary. And today we're actually going to go with the Philadelphia Flyers to score less than 2.5 goals, under 2.5. I'm blocked. It's plus 107 actually for the Flyers to score under 2.5 goals. Obviously, the Islanders' goaltending has been phenomenal. Philadelphia has been a little bit of a roller coaster this year when it comes to offense. So we're putting faith in Sorokin is probably the starter today. Arthur, is that fair? Is that accurate?
We'll have to see. They've been alternating 2 for Sorokin, 1 for Riddick. So could go either way. We'll see.
Okay, well, we trust both guys, right?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going under 2.5 for the Flyers, and that's going to wrap up the show. You guys have any final thoughts?
No, that's it, buddy.
Go back and crawl onto the couch and sit and watch some hockey. This is like the perfect post-Thanksgiving day because there's hockey on all day.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, well, we love you guys.
Great.
And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening, as always. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.